Good evening and welcome back to All for United, the greatest YouTube channel on the planet. And yes, I don't say that lightly. And yes, I do look like absolute rubbish. That's the second COVID jab for you, ladies and gentlemen. It's not me for 6. But anyway, we are live today and we're just going to be discussing with my great panel of guests and with your great selves. What is our strongest 11? What is our strongest 11 this going into this season? And also, have we got the best team in the league? The best team in the league, the best starting 11 in the league, I'd say, because I listen to the next question. Have we got the greatest squad depth in, greatest squad depth? Because last season we sort of huffed and puffed our way out of it again. You know, we looked a little bit leggy like we did the season beforehand. Have we got enough squad depth to be challenging for silverware and be challenging our main rivals? We're going to get into it after this great new intro, by the way. So I'll see you on the other side.
Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from Passionate Reds, only on All for United.
Hey, see, I'm getting it working, boys. I'm getting it working.
This
new thing for someone that's rubbish with technology. Good evening once again, ladies and gents, and thank you for joining us. I've got a great panel tonight. I've got Stu. How are we, Stu?
All good, yeah. Not bad, actually. Recovering from the weekend. So
he's still recovering.
Yeah, I had a kickabout last night, and so all good. Getting back into it.
Andrew, how are we, my friend?
Yeah, all good as well. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And Charlie, my man Charlie, how are you, pal?
Very good, thanks, mate. It's been a bit of a crazy day in the old transfer window, hasn't it?
Hasn't it just, mate? Hasn't it just? Hey, who'd have thought Aston Villa pulling some moves as well? With silent but deadly.
Yeah. Ings isn't a bad signing for them, actually. I think he'll fit them quite well.
Yeah.
I think it's good move that for Ings. Good move for Villa as well.
I'll just get into the comments here. Good evening, Connor. How are we, pal? Yeah, I'm doing it well. I'm not feeling too good, pal. But the show must go on, as they always say in showbiz. David De Gea's a goal in this. Then yes, beat 11 this season. Best 11. Evening got one and all. Steady on, Ben, with the best 11 claims. Having a collection of top individual players. Yeah, well, we'll get into that. Everyone's welcome to their own opinion. This is what we like on this channel. So let's just get straight into it. We'll start. What is our strongest 11? Now, I've already know that Stu's already got it on his little iPad thing there. He's already He's already thought about this pre-show. But I'm going to start, if I may. I'm going to go position by position because and then we can get into nitty-gritty of formations and and who people would like to see. But we'll start building a clearer picture of individually who's in each people's strongest starting 11. But Stu, I'll start with you, pal. The goalkeeper situation now with Dean Henderson obviously struggling by the sounds of it, getting over a bout of COVID. That obviously leaves, well, I would say 3 choices, but I don't know whether Lee Grant really consists of a choice. But you've got Tom Heaton, you've got David De Gea in there. And let's throw Dean Henderson in there. Let's say he's a fully fit Dean Henderson. We're taking the squad as all fully fit. Who will start between the sticks for you? Who's your number one going into the season?
Well, first things first, Ollie has to make a decision right from Leeds on who he's going to pick as his number one. I don't really think it'll be ideal for us. It certainly won't be ideal for Mr. Varane when he rocks up. If there is interchange in between goalkeepers, so Ollie, first and foremost, Ollie needs to be bold. Talk to a keeper, whoever it is. You're my number one, and that's it. Moving forward, and for me, that man is Henderson. Now, people can criticise his end of season form. I've got an issue with that. He has a lot of. He did make a couple of mistakes against Liverpool, etc. I would ask the question: how much of that was down to potentially his hip injury when he had his hip injury, What the extent of his hip injury was, we don't necessarily know. And was he feeling the effects of COVID before he got diagnosed with it? So nobody knows. But for me, he's a lot more commanding in the area, and we need that. And I just think it's the right time to place Henderson as number one. So he would be my number one.
Absolutely good argument there, Stu. Andrew, Barry, you're throwing a big spanner in the work and saying Lee Grant. Who are you going to go for number one?
I'm going to go for Dean Henderson. I say, but like Stu said, Ollie has to make a decision. I thought he would have made that at the end of the season when he's deciding between Henderson and De Gea while De Gea was away for the birth of his child. So the economics make sense in the favour of Henderson. I mean, it's such a shame he's just got gotten over COVID, and it's like I think he's reported like he's getting like fatigued and everywhere. So it's just getting him back into form. I expect that Ollie will choose De Gea from like the start, but I want Henderson to be the number one. I mean, there is confidence in Henderson. I mean, he did have a good last season, the second half of the season. He did pretty well. I think he had more than a dozen clean sheets. He conceded not so many goals. But the question mark over Henderson, he hasn't been tested in front of the Old Trafford faithful yet, but that will come with time. I know Ollie needs to just look at the situation, how he's going to manage all these goalkeepers. I mean, De Gea is a player he's known for a long time. He knows how to manage him, and De Gea shouldn't cause too many problems. But Henderson, he's made it clear he wants to be the number one, and he thinks he's probably better than De Gea. I know De Gea, in the career he's had at United, he's done a lot for us. He's saved us points, gained us points, but in the last few years, he's not been quite the same player he once was. He has dropped a few clangers, but then I can't put everything on De Gea because our defence has been a few times a bit leaky. But in terms of Ollie, he will look at what's good for Manchester United. Henderson's, is he 24, 25? And we can probably get another maybe 10 plus years out of Henderson. So Henderson, I'd put him in front of De Gea, but the question mark is, has he been truly tested yet? So, I mean, we'll only see in time whether it's the case whether he pushes De Gea out once he's back from, recovering from COVID completely.
Absolutely. Good evening, Ugly Bear. Nice to see you again, mate. And I think Red Lords, isn't Henderson still injured? I don't know if he's still injured. I think he's from what I read, he's still struggling to get over a bout of COVID. It's affected him in training or something. But I do know that I think he is training at Carrington. I think doing like behind the scenes training and everything with one-on-one with a coach. So I think he is back doing light stuff, if not too heavy, because I know he has been struggling with the heavier stuff. So thank you, nice beard, mate. Thank you very much. It's an absolute mess today, but thank you for that. Apparently, are you Adam Sandler, Andrew? I don't know about that one. But,
I've never been called that before.
That's a bit dubious for me. That's a bit dubious. Charlie, my friend, I know you've always got a good opinion on goalkeepers, mate. Where do you stand on the goalkeeper situation? Who would make your strongest starting 11 in between the sticks for United?
It's an interesting question. For me, I think David De Gea is, although he has declined, which is obviously quite easy to see, I think he's still a good goalkeeper. I think Dean Henderson is a decent goalkeeper. I still think David De Gea is a level above him in terms of his. I'm a little bit old-fashioned with goalkeepers. A lot of people, obviously, the modern game, you need to be able to use the ball well, which Henderson does better than De Gea. Not by a long stretch, but does a little bit better than De Gea. But I just think the reflexes, the saving ability, shot saving, I think De Gea is still better. And I think that's the most important thing for a goalkeeper. When Henderson did come in when obviously De Gea had went back to Spain for his child, for his wife, partner giving birth, the defence did look more assured for a period of games with Henderson in goal. Up until that Liverpool game, I think there was a couple of games before where he looked a little bit shaky at times, but he didn't make a horrendous error. And then it was one of the worst goalkeeper performances I've seen for a long time in that Liverpool game. But before that game, there was a lot of performances where the defence looked very assured. Away at West Ham, he actually provided the pass that some people thought went out of play. West Ham were complaining about it. I think that ended up with the Pogba goal, I think it was. And away at Man City, he released the ball very quickly for Luke Shaw, I believe it was. He went on to start the attack for the second goal. So Dean Henderson also, as well as his being a decent goalkeeper, his decent shot stopping ability, he can also provide that attacking. He uses the ball better than De Gea. He can start attacks better than De Gea can. There's no doubt about that. But for me, still overall, I do prefer David De Gea. I don't like some of the traits that David De Gea has. I think he looks a bit scared and weak at times, which I don't like. But I still think that David De Gea is the better goalkeeper. If you look at it overall, but it's a bit of a tough one. I don't think either goalkeeper. I think if you say Donnarumma, who went on obviously to PSG for free, I think he'd start ahead of both of them. So I think De Gea and Henderson, neither of them in the top 10 keepers in the world. I don't think De Gea, you might push it, but I think they're both decent to good goalkeepers and nothing more, Benny.
Charlie, I'll just stick with you for a minute. I'm going to ask you. No one's actually mentioned Tom Heaton. Solid goalkeeper's played enough he has played all our pre-season games so far. I know he's swapped it in and out with Lee Grant on some of the games. Do you think that surely he's even said himself he's not coming around just to be someone that's flirting around in the back area, backstage area. He wants to challenge for the number one jersey. Is he good enough to be a Manchester United first choice goalkeeper in your opinion?
I don't think so, but I think Tom Heaton is a very professional. He's a fantastic professional. The way he acts, I think he's taken a lot of points off us being the Burnley keeper, hasn't he? Coming to Old Trafford in the past, we couldn't get the ball past him a few times. Mm-hmm. I think there was a 2-2 draw once or something, unless I'm mistaken. I think there was a 2-2 draw where we could have scored about 8 goals, but he was just incredible. He's a fantastic professional, Tom Heaton. I like his attitude. He's not just coming here to be a number 3 or whatever. He wants to obviously play, which that's the whole point of football, of course. But yeah, not for me. I think second goalkeeper, the second choice at best. He would be. I think. He can play some cup games, etc. But if Henderson, he's got COVID at the moment. If De Gea picks up an injury, would I be worried if Heaton was in goal for Leeds? I wouldn't. I wouldn't be worried at all. It wouldn't sort of think, oh goodness me, I wouldn't thought that. I think okay, it's not the best, but he's a reliable keeper. He showed that throughout the years. So no, I'm not expecting him to challenge for the number 1 at all. But if he were, if you were to look at around the Premier League and say, well, who's got the what second, third choice keeper? You look at all the teams. Who's got the most reliable keeper that could come in? I think we've got quite a good reliable keeper there. If we do have a crisis, I think Tom Heaton could come in. Obviously, using the ball, he isn't the best. Played at Burnley, where they're not really requiring playing out from the back. His ball playing ability isn't great, but as I said before, shot stopping, he will do a job. So yeah,
he hasn't played for 18 months.
Yeah, I was going to come to you, Stu, because I saw you shaking your head, mate.
He hasn't played, has he, for 18 months? He got injured, Pope got in, and I think that was it. He might have played the odd game here and there, but sporadically. But in terms of regular play, what you would consider to put a run of games together, it's got to be 18 months since he had a run of games due to his injury. So, I mean, look, he's no, he can't start for us. I mean, if he's got to, he's got to. But in terms of where he'll be in the pecking order, he'll always be a number 3. In my eyes, the problem that we've got with De Gea and Henderson at the moment is De Gea probably over the course of the season cost us more points than what Henderson did. And if you remember when Schmeichel was in goal for us, he was completely the opposite. And actually, De Gea, when he was Player of the Year, he was almost in the realms of where Schmeichel was. He was probably good for 10 or 12 points a season. And that's what a goalkeeper's got to be there for. Can't cost you points. He's got to gain you points. And that there was times where De Gea was by far as good as Schmeichel in that instance in terms of point saving. So I think that's the biggest problem. I think Ollie might look at it and say, it always depends, by the way. I mean, if Henderson can't start against Leeds and De Gea goes in and we do well and he plays the first 3 or 4 games, then it could well be that De Gea starts. But it's an interesting one.
Absolutely. I want to come to Andrew just to round us off on the goalkeeper situation. As in terms of depth for goalkeepers, if you count Lee Grant in there as our senior 4 goalkeepers, surely we've got one of the best strength and depth in the goalkeeper department in the whole league. I mean, United have got about 6 to 8 goalkeepers on their books anyway, all at various different levels of the game. But how would you judge the Manchester United goalkeeper department overall, Andrew?
I'd say it's quite strong in depth. I mean, it's not likely whether Ollie was going to make the decision on De Gea or Henderson. I think De Gea is going to stay at least another season, but then it gives us that's what I think Ollie wants. He wants the choice. He's like, well, I can call upon these goalkeepers anytime. So whether it's the Premier League, the Champions League, the FA Cup or League Cup, even like Tom Heaton, I know he's the 3rd choice, but he'll want to have his chance in the team, because I think I said it when we was reviewing the Brentford game. He was like, say, commanding in the box. He was like shouting at the defenders, "Stay up, get out." So he'll want his moment as well. But I mean, we've got a good strong lineup in terms of goalkeepers. But it's just I'd say I'll put Henderson as well. As I said earlier, Henderson would be the number 1, then De Gea. But it's just it's managing their expectations. How Ollie's going to keep them all happy. So it's a headache, but a good headache for him. So we'll have to see how it all pans out over the season. Who comes to the fore?
Absolutely. We'll move it on now, and we'll go to Charlie first. I'm going to start with Charlie this time. Our defence, mate, it's been bolstered by the arrival of Rafael Varane, but also there's rumours going around that Axel Tuanzebe could be going back to Aston Villa on loan. How would you rate our defence going into this season, and who would make your your strongest starting 11 defensively?
Well, I think 99% of everybody every Man United fan will agree it's going to be Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Varane, Maguire, and Shaw. I think Maguire and Shaw's partnership that they formed was fantastic. I think we saw when Maguire got injured, actually Shaw's form dipped. If you're used to playing next to a centre half for months and months and you've created a good partnership together and then they're not there, it's a little bit different. I think he was playing next to Lindelof or Bailly, and Maguire obviously acts differently in different positions, probably in worse positions than Bailly and Lindelof pick up, and it affected Shaw. You could actually see with his form. So I think Shaw and Maguire on that left are very strong. Varane and Wan-Bissaka I'm a little bit more unsure on those. I think Wan-Bissaka's positional sense has been questioned, rightly so, before. And I don't buy that bringing in Varane will sort of sort it out. I don't think that's sort of... Varane needs to concentrate on his own game. Of course, he can help Wan-Bissaka out, but you've got to focus on yourself first. We can't have any lame ducks. We can't have any people, not up to scratch if we want to challenge for a title. So I think Eric Ramsey's going to have to work with Wan-Bissaka on his positional play. I think that's one of the jobs that he can do with his one-on-one. But yeah, that back 4, to be honest with you, I wouldn't be too worried if Maguire or Varane did get injured. I think Lindelof is not a bad 3rd choice to come in, but I would worry if Luke Shaw got injured. I think that's a big problem. I think Alex Telles, for me, we've seen defensively just isn't good enough. He thrives at left wing back. So I think if either of our fullbacks, if we don't bring in a right back, I think Shaw and Wan-Bissaka need to be They need to be protected. I think in cup games, can we try and involve Diogo Dalot if he stays, Telles if he stays? I just think Shaw and Wan-Bissaka can't be played as much as he was last season. He's just going to get injured. I think our two fullbacks are crucial. In terms of the rest of the squad, I think we've got three good. I think we've got Varane, Maguire, and Lindelof. I trust those three. I think that's it. I think if one of those were to get injured and we only have two, I think the options then to come in is quite a big downgrade. You know, I quite like Eric Bailly at times, but I've sort of fallen out of love with him. I think he's too rash. I don't think he's good enough on the ball if you want to win a title. So yeah, my big worry would be particularly, I know Maguire's a big loss, but particularly I think Luke Shaw would be a worry if he were to get injured. But yeah, our starting back four is player for player, of course. It's among the best individually in the league. But obviously, we need to work better. We conceded the most home goals for 50-odd years last season. So it's not just about individuals. It's about the system. And it's about defending as a team. So, a back four, defending isn't just about the back four. So, yeah, fantastic back four. I like the back four, that new back four that we're probably going to see. But just individuals on a team sheet doesn't necessarily mean anything. So we've got to see if they can work together and operate as a unit, with the goalkeeper as well, of course.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Stu, I'm just going to come to this comment. Ugly Bears said here about I won't write Lindelof off yet. Does Victor Lindelof make your strongest 11 in a defensive unit, or is he just maybe too error prone for you?
Well, the interesting thing about defence is that whatever happens, whatever starting 11 Ollie plays, and it won't be Varane. Varane clearly won't start because he's not in the country, is he? So he clearly won't start against Leeds. So it's likely to be Maguire and Lindelof, I would say. But the interesting thing when Varane does come in, it's going to take 7 or 8 games to get any kind of settled side, to get any kind of continuity. So, and within those 7 or 8 games, you'll have ups and downs. So you'll have 1 or 2 of those games where they'll be flawless and they'll be absolutely brilliant and they'll world beat us. You'll have 1 or 2 games where we'll let some, we'll make some silly mistakes and we'll let some soft goals in. It's just the nature of the beast. Certainly when you've got a new player coming in from a different league, he's got to settle into the Premier League. So you're not going to write Lindelof because he's going to start the season, clearly. In terms of our back four when Varane is in, like I said, it remains to be seen how quickly Varane can get up to speed, whether all the fan excitement, I guess, will be warranted because we don't know any of those unanswered questions. But my back four was pretty similar to Charlie's. It would have been Wan-Bissaka at right back, Shaw at left, Maguire, and I would start with Varane over Lindelof. But again, it's the same as any team. If you've got injuries or you've got players that are absent for whatever reason, then it's up to you to take your chance. And Lindelof's got a chance in the first couple of games, I would say, certainly the first game, to stake a claim and make Varane fight for his place. So it would be quite interesting.
I'm going to come to you in a minute, Andrew. I left this comment on by Red Lords. With Ollie liking Lindelof, I don't see him losing a lot of game time. I personally see a back three in a big game such as Chelsea. Do you see, Andrew? Do you see us maybe revert to a back three? There's one thing that I did chuck out on Twitter there. Will we see a lot more of a back three next season with maybe perhaps Varane coming in? Well, Varane is coming in, but with Varane there, perhaps we might see Lindelof still in there with alongside Maguire and Varane maybe. Who knows? Or do you think that Ollie will stick with that back four, that solid back four? What's your sort of take on it?
I was going to say, we've got a number of options. Obviously, there's the back four, but also you can switch to the back three or even a back five as well.
Five as well, yeah.
I say reports, and from what I've read, Ollie, he still really rates Lindelof as well, But I just think if it was just to be just a back four, then I'd agree with Stu and Charlie. It's going to be Wan-Bissaka, Varane, Maguire, and Shaw. I mean, Maguire and Shaw are penciled in for having big seasons once again. I mean, they're both really good at the Euros. Obviously, no doubt we've been boosted and strengthened by the arrival of Varane, and Wan-Bissaka's performed well since he's arrived in the United shirt. So, and plus whether any more transfers come in, if like Trippier comes in, that can provide a bit more competition for Wan-Bissaka. I mean, defensively, Wan-Bissaka's really good. It's just the other end of the pitch where we want him to just improve a bit more. So like getting on the attack, crossing a few more balls in, and helping United to score a few more goals as well. So yeah, it's just say, and also with Varane's arrival, it'll help Harry Maguire in his centre back role as well, because just in the last 2 seasons with Maguire, it's like Maguire likes to step forward with the ball and bring it out into the midfield, and sometimes he's been a bit wary to bring it out because he doesn't want to leave the rest of the defence exposed. So whereas having Varane in there will give him a bit more confidence to step more forward and leave Varane behind. So yeah, it's going to be a big season for our defence. I mean, I know we've got the likes of Baye as well. I think they might just see their game time limited to cup games. I know Tuanzebe is likely to go to the Villa, which I think is a good move for him, because I think it's now or never with Tuanzebe. It's like he's got to have a good season, and United assess it at the end of the season, whether we decide to keep him and he's good enough, or it's time to move him on so he can get more game time at another club, whether that's Villa or someone else. So it's going to be an interesting time in the defence.
Just going to say hi to Vince. I hope you're all well, pal. Nice to see you in the comments again, mate. Stu, I was going to come to you anyway, Stu, because I just wanted to, before you get your point in, mate, I was going to ask you another point. Do we need to make any more additions to the back line? If Tuanzebe does go out on loan, like we expected him to go to Villa, do we need to bring maybe someone else, one more person in, whether that be Trippier or somebody of that sort of ilk in? Or do you think we're pretty much set on now, and it all depends on what's happening with Delo?
I was just going to say, really, I think if he brings Trippier in, then obviously he can quite easily go back to a back three. It's a very easy transition, because Trippier's played there on numerous occasions, as well as right and left back. So if he brings Trippier in, if we can get him at 18 plus 5, which I think we should be able to do quite comfortably, then I think we'll be quite solid at the back, and we'll have probably man for man one of the best back lines in the Premier League in terms of ability. If he doesn't bring in Trippier and Tuanzebe goes, I'm not so sure I'd be going out and looking. I don't think there's anybody out there. People would say Max Aarons, etc., but I'm not really convinced of him. So I would probably, I think there's other areas we need to strengthen that are far, far more important, and we know which areas those are, than to spend money for the sake of spending money. I know people are saying Wan-Bissaka needs potentially a kick up the arse, etc., but they're kind of looking at the modern day game rather than actually what a fullback does. And when it comes to certain areas and certain characteristics of a fullback, there isn't anybody really better than Wan-Bissaka as a fullback. Going forward, with Sancho coming in, depending on the relationship and how quickly a relationship can strike between Wan-Bissaka and Sancho, it might negate Wan-Bissaka moving higher up the field a lot of the time and leave it to Sancho really for his crossing ability. So no, in answer to your question, Benny, unless we can get in Trippier, I wouldn't really go looking for someone to fill in at right back, especially if Dalot stays anyway.
And just to finish it off, Charlie, did you think that? Can you see Dalot staying? He's looking quite lean and mean in the old training photos and the old training videos that United have been posting out. or do you think that he's had his time? It's now time to move on, and hopefully then that'll be able to bring us. We could be able to bring in someone like a Kieran Trippier, or do you think we should keep hold of him over Trippier, knowing that he's younger, we could work with him, we can mould him in the way that we want. What's your feelings on Diego Dalot?
I think he should have a look at himself and probably rebrand himself as a winger, to be honest. I just think I don't think he's ever going to get in ahead of Wan-Bissaka. I don't think Ollie likes him. I think he's a problem defensively. We saw it even against Brentford, and people say, well, that's just one game. That was a simple clearance, and he just knocked it straight into the Brentford player. Yeah, I think he will leave. I don't whether it's this summer. I don't know, but I don't think he's ever going to get ahead of Wan-Bissaka. But to be honest with you, if we don't sign Trippier, I would, and I know I'd go back on everything I just said, but we need a backup. Wan-Bissaka needs to be rested, as I said before. I'd play Wan-Bissaka in the Champions League, the Premier League, but in the cups we need to start seeing some rotation, because we saw even last season. I think we went away at Leicester in the quarterfinal of the FA Cup, and we rotated all of a sudden, and these players had not played much at all, and it ended up into a crisis. And we need to make sure that we rotate more frequently. So that when these players do come in an important cup match or whatever it might be, or if Wan-Bissaka does get injured, Dalot is ready. But yeah, I would keep him. But obviously, if we get Trippier, then obviously you sell him or you loan him if anybody wants him. But to be honest with you, I don't think anybody wants these players. Dalot, Pereira, Lingard. It's not looking very good for us in terms of the outgoings. And Pogba looks like he's going to stay as well. So if all this happens, we're not going to be signing a CDM, I don't think. If we can't get rid of anybody else. So it's all sort of stalled, hasn't it? All the transfer news, and everybody's got a bit excited. Sancho business was should have been done years ago, and Varane hasn't even got in the UK yet. I think he's on a plane or something. I don't know. It's all a bit up in the air, isn't it? So we need to sort of get a move on, sort something out, because we're sort of running out of a bit of time if we don't get these sales done, if anybody is interested in these players.
Absolutely. Right, I'll move it on to the old midfield. This is probably going to be the hardest one to judge, because you could have quite a few different combinations in this one. Andrew, I'll come to you first. I might be a bit over the top, but if Pogba does stay, saying that we've got possibly one of the best midfields in all of Europe, never mind the league, or am I just being a bit, overhyped and over confident, I think the word is. What's your take on our midfield? Or do we still need that CDM? Even if Pogba stays, do we still need a CDM to take us to the absolute very top level? How do you feel about our midfield?
I say I agree with that. If Pogba stays, then we could have one of the best midfields. I'm still sort of undecided about this, the holding midfield, because I think Scott McTominay can do it. I really do. So it'd be like a 4-3-3. So I'd have in the midfield Pogba, McTominay, and Fernandes. I just think McTominay can do that role. I mean, he's good on retaining the ball, getting linking the defence and the attack as well, and he can also help out in the defence as well. I know when he's played for Scotland, he's been in centre back as well, so he can always help out there as well. And I think he can link the play. I just don't think. Even though Fred's like his first season, we all thought, is he ever going to make it United? And then second season, he got better and better. But I just feel like it's always just Fred's. You always think there might be a bit of a mistake in him somewhere. So, but I just think McTominay, I just think he can link that the defense and attack, and with Pogba and Fernandes, them together, I just think he could be one of the best midfields this season we could ever see. So, and them linking it with the forward line as well, we could score plenty of goals and hopefully go on and challenge for the title. So I think that's the three I'd go in within midfield. But that's why I'm just the defensive mid. It's who we can get. Well, who we could get in with so many weeks left of the transfer window, and if every club knows we're after a defensive, they're going to just say, "Well, here's another 10 million we'll add on to this player's value. So if you want him, you're going to have to pay for him. We've done that before, and then we've got our fingers burnt. And United and the board have learned the lesson. Well, I hope they've learned the lessons and saying, well, we're not going to be railroaded into paying over extortionate fees anymore. So, but in terms of, say, the holding midfield, I'll give McTominay the chance to do it.
That's a shout, though, Stu. But McTominay is a holding midfield player, or I can see you critically looking at your mind right now. I don't know about that one, but
well, actually, I agree. He was in my starting 11. Was McTominay? Yeah, he was. He made my starting 11 at the current that we've got. Look, I would shoehorn every single one of the fuckers out. You know that. Matic, McTominay, Fred. I'd shoehorn the fucking lot of them gone.
Oh, you like McTominay? I love McTominay, me.
No. But I'm just saying, because there are miles better players out there that we could bring in. But as you can't, and as we're talking about our current squads, you would have to start McTominay. You can't start with Fred, because I think as he's proven in the Copa America, he's more of an 8. So he is more of a box-to-box player. If we run with Pogba and Fernandes, which was my 2 alongside McTominay, then I think McTominay has the attributes, but I don't know whether he's got the discipline. So he's got the attributes of 100%, but has he got the discipline? That's the worry that I've got. But if you're picking between Fred, Matic and McTominay, then McTominay is the one for me. Matic would be ideal, I know. And I know Charlie's a big fan of Matic, and I would agree. As a footballer and as a defensive midfielder, he plays the game the way it should be. But his problem is his lack of pace. And I know a defensive midfielder, because I played there for a while and I was never quick, but I read the game very, very well, and I tackled hard, and I would get it and I would pass it. I wasn't a skillful footballer, and Matic is very good at that. And Charlie will talk about his through ball, but I think when you come to certain teams, when you're playing with certain aggressive, quick, fast pressing players, I think McTominay, with his stature and his physique and his ability to pick a pass, his ability to drop his shoulder a tiny bit on occasions and get round a player, I think he would add more if we can discipline him, to stay within a certain area. He could marshal our back four quite well. But you're kind of asking us to pick from 3 poor players compared to what's out there. And this is the real key element. So what we've got now would be McTominay for me. So I'm with Andrew on this one.
Charlie, McTominay, or are you gonna stick Matic in there, pal, instead?
I'm gonna say none of them. If we don't sign a CDM, we cannot play 4-3-3. It's as simple as that. Mm-hmm. You cannot have. I don't think there's any CDM in the world anyway that could play. People think that a CDM is the only one that defends in a midfield in a 4-3-3. It's just rubbish. I've seen things like we need to unlock Pogba and Fernandes. There's no CDM in the world football of gone history that can play that role on his own. You have to do it as a team. And I think obviously your best bet would be Ndidi. I think Ndidi would probably do that role out of anyone the most effectively. I think Bissouma would give it a good go. I think he's got some impressive attributes as well, but I don't think there's any. I don't think you can win a title playing that way with Pogba and Fernandes. I think it would be carnage. I think we've seen how high Fernandes plays. We've seen Pogba. He doesn't want to do defensive duties, and I understand we've got Varane as a reinforcement, but you've got Luke Shaw bombing on forward. I think on the counter, I think we would get punished by teams. So what I would do, if we didn't sign a CDM, I would stick with the pivots, the 4-2-3-1, and then I'd change the midfield too, depending on who we played, basically. So if you're playing Leeds, if you're playing City, Chelsea, Arsenal, I would have to play either McTominay and Fred or Pogba and Fred. I think we've seen with Fred and Pogba, it has worked better than McTominay and Pogba has. I just think it works better. I think we saw in the Europa League final the struggles we had when we had McTominay and Pogba in there. against other opponents, I would play Matic and Pogba or Matic and Van der Beek against low blocks. I think we've seen Matic progressive passing. He can drop into a back three and dictate play, which we lack with Fred and McTominay. So yeah, if we don't sign a CDM, there's no way with what we've got that we can effectively play a 4-3-3. And even if we were to bring in a Neves, a Saul, a Bissouma, you'd still struggle because there's very few teams in world football that have ever that play a 4-3-3 where there's one defensive player and two very, very attacking-minded players. If you look at Casemiro, Kroos and Modric, Casemiro obviously the CDM, but Kroos and Modric are not like attacking midfield players. They still do the gritty work. And I think Bruno is quite tenacious. I think he could do a defensive job, but I don't think Ollie wants him to do that. I think what Ollie wants is to unlock Pogba and Bruno. I think that's actually what he wants. So what you need is a CDM that's a destroyer behind them. And I don't think we've got anybody who can do that effectively. I think Matic could do that job in certain games. But as Stu rightly said, playing against a team like Liverpool, a high-pressing team, a Leeds, a Chelsea, a Leicester, you get punished. But yeah, I don't think we can play a 4-3-3 with what we've got at the moment. I think we'll have to revert back to a pivot just because I think we've now got enough attacking ability. I don't mind having more men behind the ball. I'm not bothered about a slightly more defensive approach if it's effective. I think we saw Chelsea, although they're not a boring team to watch, they went to a back five. It wasn't defensive, but they put an extra centre half in and they actually won more football matches. They control more football matches. And I know they've got better midfield players than we have. But another option we could do other than the pivot is to go to a back three and then put Matic in front because Matic would work better with a back three or a back five alongside a Pogba or a Van der Beek. So he's got different options, Ollie. It's not just sort of McTominay and Fred or nothing. He has also got the option of a back five. We've got Tellez. We've got Dalot, who's better as a right wing back. We have got options, Shaw as a left centre back. So yeah, we have got different options. But yeah, it's a real tough one. I wouldn't play a 4-3-3 with what we've got at the moment. It won't work effectively.
I'll just counter that a little bit. The idea of a 4-3-3, by the way, is your two wider forward players will sit back in. If you drilled right, that's how a 4-3-3 should work. So you can hold a single central midfielder. You can then accommodate Pogba, Fernandes, or maybe a Van der Beek. Let's look at those three. And it really does depend on who you're playing on the press, etc. But the idea is then that, this is how it should work. But whether it does work or not is a different story. But I think Sancho was used to coming back at Dortmund, so Sancho will come back and he will help out the midfield when we're out of possession. Martial and Rashford are the only slight doubt for me, whether or not they've got the wherewithal to come back. But ideally, when you're out of possession, you kind of just have your holding striker, your top-end striker, whoever that may be, Cavani or Greenwood will say. And your two wider forwards should sit back in alongside Pogba and Fernandes to the right and to the left. So you should have your CDM here, Fernandes, Pogba, and then your kind of two wingers there. And that's where they should sit in. Now, if they're drilled and our coaches get that into them, it works really, really well, a 4-3-3. If it doesn't, it's a problem on counter-attacks, as you quite rightly pointed out, Charlie. And I tend to agree. I just don't, for me, I don't like the double pivot. I think the double pivot strangles us. I think it suffocates us. And it's not about releasing Pogba, and I don't think it's about releasing Fernandes. I don't quite know Ollie's reasoning for the double pivot because it never made any sense to me because Fred and McTominay, they're just not good enough to play that. Now, you are right, and I think Andrew would agree with me on this. In our current personnel, as I think we said earlier, you wouldn't have any of them. I wouldn't have Matic, McTominay or Fred. I would have a CDM, a specialist in there of some description, be it a Brozovic, just play me Brozovic card again, be it a Bissouma and Ndidi, a Fabinho at Liverpool. I'm just talking about players that would suit that system. And then if we've got somebody like that who's almost dictating our structure when we're out of possession, and our back four, I think will be tough to beat. But that's effectively how 4-3-3 should defend. Because don't forget, you're never attacking formation. When you're attacking, the formation goes out the window. It's all about your defensive and how tight you are and how cohesive you are. And it's all about your communication. So I think you're absolutely right, Charlie. And I can see why you go for a double pivot. I just don't think, well, we just haven't got the personnel for a double pivot. It doesn't sit right with me. I
understand. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. My worry is, though, especially with Rashford, James. I think James and Martial are more traditional wingers. I think Rashford is more of an inside forward who runs in behind. And we've seen already when Rashford runs in behind, he very rarely gets back into a defensive position. So that would be my worry. And about the double pivot, I don't particularly like the double pivot either. I just think if we look at last season, we very rarely won games against the top six, but we also didn't lose too many. Yeah. And if you look at next season, if we can start beating 1-2, 3-0 out of the teams in the bottom half and try not to get beat against the bigger sides, we could end up with 85 points. You know what I mean? And that might just be enough for a title challenge.
I think the other thing as well, unfortunately, and you're absolutely right, but the 4-3-2-1 is very predictable for us, and teams understood it's predictable. And the thing about the Premier League is, football's a simple game, really. When you actually look at it, in dimensions, characteristics, segments, formations, it's a relatively simple game. But it's what you do on the pitch, and I speak about it all the time, as you guys well know. It's how the players adapt to any given game at any one time. But my worry about the 4-3-3, Charlie, would be Rashford. It would be, or Martial on that side. I don't think we'd have any problems with Sancho because he's done it with Dortmund. It's who you would put on the left side. And the other thing I think, and we'll probably talk about this, is funnily enough, what Ollie does with Rashford this season, because I think he's got a bit of a decision to make on that one as well. I would send him for his op. Quite frankly, I'd take him out.
He's already going for his op, mate. They've already said they made a decision.
It's happened.
That's why I think John Maguire is saying Rashford's out for 3 months, and that's not including. But John, the whole point of the show is to get our strongest 11 if everybody was fit.
But it is interesting, and I'll be interested in Andrew's thoughts about what me and Charlie have just been discussing. See where you come down on that.
I was going to come to Andrew with this one, actually.
Sorry, my bad.
Saying here, couldn't we revert back to our traditional formation of 4-4-2, play without a holding player now that we've got Varane and Maguire? What do you think to that, Andrew? And also to the points that these two gentlemen have made either side of you?
I just don't think I know under Fair we used to play the traditional 4-4-2, but I just don't think we can do that now. And the double pivot, I was never a fan of it. When McTominay and Fred were playing it, they both wanted to do the same role as each other, and they always ended up going in the same positions. Of one should just decide, I'm going to hold back here, I'm going to go forward. They always seem to want to be in the same place at the same time, and that's sometimes where we got caught out. That's why I think we should just have the one holding midfielder, whether we do go out and try and get somebody like, you think of the likes of like Ndidi at Leicester, or I know there's Kante at Chelsea, but I know I'm not sure whether he's under 30 or over 30 now, or even if Matic was just like a bit younger, because against the friendly against Brentford, he was just scouring the centre midfield from left to right to the middle and just literally cutting out the passing lines and just helping out the defence and then linking it to the attack as well. So I just think we just need to be. I just don't know whether it'll be interesting to see at the start of the season whether he goes to a 4-2-3-1 or he goes a 4-3-3. Just who he's got. Well, depending on who he's got available. I know he's, according to reports, Ali said I'm going to pick players on the fitness, not reputation. So he's not going to say whether you're a big star or not. If I can see you working well in training, you're fit enough, then.
Football should always be about that, though, Andrew. It's a good point you make there, because to me, football should always be about that. It should never be about the name on the back of your shirt. It should always be about what you can offer to the team. And, I was never a talented footballer in terms of skill or anything of that nature, but I knew where to be, and I was always arrived at the right time. So, whether it be at centre half or whether it be at CDM, I was always there at the right time. But I was never a talented footballer. I couldn't go on a dribble and beat 6 players or do a rainbow flick and, pop one in the corner with the back of my head or anything of that nature. That never really interested me. I knew my limitations and I got the best out of my limitations. In fact, Roy Keane was very, very similar, actually. If you remember Roy Keane's style of play, he's never what you would call a flashy player. Or anything of that nature. He was a very simple player, but really effective with his simplicity. Very intelligent with his runs. Very intelligent with his 2, his 3 yard passing. But he'd step into space or he'd stand still and receive the ball because he's in acres of space. He's a very intelligent footballer. And Matic, actually, Charlie, that is his game. That's Matic's game. But I don't know how Roy Keane would fare in the modern game, and I think this is what Matic's problem is in the modern game, and I hate that because I'm an old school footballer and I don't like the modern game in terms of what it's about. But that's why I think Matic finds his problems sometimes. It's just the modern game. So, but yeah, it's really interesting. It's really interesting, our midfield. It's been a debate for 2-3 seasons now, and still we haven't quite got it right.
I think it's like picking the right players for the right games. I just remember under Fergie, he always used to know when to pick the right, like Ji-Sung Park, for example. He just knew when to put him into the right game, or even the big games. Like I know
Phil Neville was another one.
Yeah, a workhorse, somebody will just run up and down and just do everything for United. And like I say, Fergie, or he'd like tell certain players, "Oh, I'm going to be given like a few weeks notice, saying you're going to be playing in the same." Just building them up, saying, "Get yourself prepared, get yourself fit. I want you ready to be at it on that game." So I think that's what Ollie will get. He'll pick players that are going to be right for those games.
He was a master of it, Fergie, wasn't he? An absolute master of it.
He was.
I remember him sending Schmeichel away on holiday for a few weeks. Came back for the business end of the season, title in the bag.
Yeah. So you just knew, just planned it all out, saying, "Oh, I know when to give players a rest, when to make the charge," and then. But yeah, he was definitely the master of it.
Those were the days, the good old days.
Yeah, good old days, boys. Anyway, we're going to move it on to the forward line now because the addition to James Sancho, we've got a bit of a few options. We've got quite a few options there now. I know with Rashford being out for the first few months of the season, but as I said, the show is all about who would you have in your strongest 11 should everybody be fit. There's quite a few options now, and we've actually got an option on the right-hand side that is actually an out-and-out right-hand-sided player, which thank the bloody Lord, it's took a decade. But I'll start with you, Charlie. Who would make your preferred starting or strongest front line if you was to pick a starting 11?
I think there's 2 different options for me. I think I'd either play, if everybody's fit, I would either play Rashford on the left, Sancho on the right, and I think Martial and Cavani. I think they said, didn't they? Cavani's going to play 60% of the games next season.
Yeah.
And I would wrap Cavani in cotton wool. Not exactly wrap him in cotton wool, but I would only select Cavani for games where it maybe suits him. I wouldn't bother with him in the cup matches, the League Cup and the FA Cup until the later rounds. Edinson Cavani, without him, I'm a firm believer we wouldn't have finished. Well, we wouldn't have got the same amount of points in the league. We would have struggled to get to the Europa League final. To be honest with you, I think him and De Gea saved us in the second leg against Roma. I think we were in trouble for half hour there. So yeah, I would interchange between him and Martial at 9. But while Rashford is out, I would play Martial on the left. But yeah, the best team, I think Rashford, Martial, and Sancho would be an interesting one. But also Rashford, Cavani, Sancho, and also Martial, Cavani, Sancho. I think Sancho and Martial, I think we're going to see some interesting link-up between those two, as well with Donny van der Beek as well. I think Martial and van der Beek will be good. We haven't really seen it yet. But yeah, Martial's obviously got the new hairstyle, hasn't he? He's shaved it all off. In my opinion, I think he'll score 25 goals next season. But That's my opinion. I just think playing alongside Bruno, Pogba, Sancho, if he can keep fit, I think he'll be exceptional. I think he'll shut some people up. But yeah, my best front three, it's Rashford, Cavani, Sancho, or Rashford, Martial, Sancho. I would interchange between that. I think Mason Greenwood is still an impact player for me. I think it's too early for him. I like him on the right. I don't like him at 9. I like him on the right. I think he plays okay there. I think he's improved his wing play. But all this talk about Greenwood as a 9 for me.
Not a 9, Charlie. He's not a 9, buddy.
No
chance. I've been talking about this, as you well know, old friend, for a long, long time.
Yeah,
he's not a 9.
Sorry, I forgot Ahmad as well. Ahmad Diallo as well. Ahmad is a very, very talented footballer. You know, he actually does simple things very well for a youngster. He keeps his play. He does simple things very well. He gives and he goes. So Ahmad, when Rashford's injured, if Cavani gets a knock, we know he's injury prone. We could see something like an Ahmad on the left, Sancho on the right, and Martial up front, something like this. So Ahmad, you've also got Dan James in certain games he thrives, but yeah, Ahmad as well. I think we've got to bring him in for particularly cup matches. I think he's definitely ready for that.
Absolutely. Stu, I'll come to you, my old friend. No, Greenwood isn't a 9. I love it. Ugly Bear agrees you though that Greenwood isn't a 9.
He knows what I think.
James Cavani, Greenwood for the first game. Somebody saying Martial needs a big season. Brian saying there. Who would make up your front line? I'm assuming you're going for a top 3, or you might shake up and go for a top 2. But
no, I'm going to go for a top 3. Yeah. I think Ollie will try and do his 4-3-3 as much as he can. What Ollie's done. Quite under the radar a little bit. He's kind of got 6 quality footballers for 3 positions, and it almost harks back to when Fergie used to have 4 strikers. When we used to play 4-4-2, we used to have 4 strikers and they rotate quite well. And I'm kind of with Charlie on this one. Obviously, we all know what I think about Cavani and a real number 9. I get excited about a proper number 9, and I think he would make my starting 11 my first team because of what he can offer. I know he's only going to play 60 games a season. I've got slight reservations about Martial playing through the middle, but that doesn't really matter because he can play left, or we can employ him right. And so my starting 3, and it's not just for Leeds, it's just my starting 3 at the minute, would be Sancho, Rice. And I've grown to kind of like him. I was a bit critical at the beginning of the season, but purely because he was having quite a poor time of it at Dortmund for whatever reason. But the second half of the season opened my eyes to the type of player that he is and what he can offer. And so he would be my starter. And I think him and Wan-Bissaka will be exceptional on the right. I really do. With Bruno, flitting and around on that side, I think it'd be a great 3. I was going to say threesome then, but we passed the watershed. But a great 3. Here's where I've got the issue. It's the left-hand side. And I'm kind of with Charlie on this one. Because I think Martial's in for a big season as well. I think he just looks determined. He's got not necessarily his haircut, but he just looks determined. He looks like he's been putting the work in over his injury and the summer. And obviously we know he's going to start. And I think I would probably tip the scales to Martial over Rashford, which is a bold call, I know, and a lot of the fan base wouldn't. And I've gone on record as saying I think Martial's lazy. His body language hasn't been the best, certainly last season. But I think that's about to change. I think you're going to see a different beast, a different kind of animal this season. And so that's what I would actually go with. I would go with Martial left, Cavani, and then I would go with Sancho. I don't need to talk about Greenwood because everyone knows what I think of Greenwood. I think he's a wonderfully.
Before you do move on about Greenwood, someone else put in the comments here, mate, is if Greenwood is at a 9 or a winger, which is his best position, does he need a loan out?
It's a really good question. The thing about Greenwood is he's not your conventional winger, but what he does offer. But having said that, don't forget, name me a team in the Premier League that plays with a conventional winger. What we know is a conventional winger, and that is a Kanchelskis or a Giggs. You know, they just cut the shortcut on their boots. It's an old saying. Get past the defender, Whitby crosses it. No team plays with a conventional winger. So it doesn't necessarily matter as long, you know, it's an outside right in old money and an outside left in old money. And the idea is, and where Greenwood is very, very good, he cuts in on the diagonal. And when he cuts in on the diagonal, he's got the defender with a real problem if he's one-on-one, because he can go right and he can go left. He's competent on both feet. So he is an impact player, Charlie. Absolutely agree. 30, 35 minutes, if we've ran people ragged and it's a tight game, you get the ball to Greenwood, and as a defender, as a left back, if you're on 70 minutes and you're shattered, you don't want that coming anywhere near you. You really don't. You're bellowing at your midfielder to get back and double team and help. And so that I'm with Charlie on that one. I tend to agree. He's got to find his destiny now, and he's got to find his path to where he wants to be. But look, if he wants to go through the middle, you better start learning how to head the ball, mate. You better start learning to be a little bit stronger, a little bit wiser, you know, but a bit tougher. And that's the only issue I got with Martial going through Martial going through the middle.
It's Martial. It's all right.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't think he's great in the air. He scored the odd 1 or 2 goals with his head. I know, you know, people in the comments will remind me of that. But you know as well as I do, lads, you're all intelligent football people with great deep knowledge of the game. No way would Martial, Rashford, Greenwood, Sancho, James score the 2 goals that, or any of the goals, really, through sheer movement and anticipation that Cavani scored. They haven't got that about their game. And working with Cavani absolutely could help them. But so anyway, I digress. My front 3, I'm going for it. Martial, Cavani, and Sancho. But as Charlie said, interchangeable.
Absolutely. Andrew, you've been a bit quiet for a while, pal. Who would make your front 3 or maybe front 2? I don't know. Well, potentially what formation you got, or you might even have one single man just up top on his own. How are you seeing things, mate? And are you agreeing with Stu there with Martial out on the left, or would a fully fit Marcus Rashford be the first choice out on the left for you?
So this is the forward lines. The debate I've had most in my mind is like, we've got so many good attackers now. It's like, who do you start with? If everyone was fully fit, I would go with Rashford on the left, Sancho on the right, and Cavani through the middle. I mean, obviously with Rashford injured at the moment, then I think, well, Sancho for the 3 starts at the moment, he'll be initially on the left-hand side, and then Greenwood would go on the right. So I'll say in the longer term, we brought Sancho in to solve the problem on the right-hand side. And I think with the goal-scoring form of Mason Greenwood and also the way Cavani played last season, I think they might just keep the likes of the others out, like Martial and maybe even Rashford. I mean, like with Martial, I mean, he goes like each season he has like it's up and down. Like he'll have a good season, then he'll go down. I mean, like last season, I think he only scored 7 goals, which was the same as Scott McTominay. And it's like, I know he's got this new look now, so it's time for Martial to like rediscover himself. I mean, I think last season there was a stat saying he shots on target. He was like better than all the other United players. What let him down was his finishing. He just couldn't. Cavani and the others were just better than him. And I mean, I think just reading the quote here about Martial, is he going to? We just don't know what's the best position on the left or through the middle. Dwight York said last year. He said, "Oh, Martial's like myself, Thierry Henry, maybe Wayne Rooney, and even Ronaldo, starting on the wing, developing, improving their skills, and then getting into that number 9 position. That's what Martial's doing. It always seems to be better going through the middle. And I think Martial has got to prove he deserves to stay as well. So if he scored just another 7 goals, then that's not good enough. And
can I just add to that, Andrew? You know, you're talking about Martial through the middle. Do you, and this is a genuine question, what do you think of his back to goal play, his hold up play?
I think it's okay. I mean, I just think I always think I want more from Martial. I know you've got the talent. I just want some more. And sometimes a bit more consistency as well. I'm just thinking sometimes, I don't know, it's because sometimes it looks like on the pitch Martial doesn't look like he's interested. But then
no, that's right, yeah. But I'm wondering if he's better off running, you see, facing goal than he is back to goal.
But I liken some, like, I know people question Martial, like, looks like he's being lazy, but I just remember like Dimitar Berbatov. It looked like he was never. He just never. I think he said it in to Gary Neville on a show. He just said, I just didn't like to run, but you could just see he just arrived in the box at the right time. He just like a goal against Blackburn many years ago. He started from the defence, Berbatov, but he wasn't busting the gut to get to the box. He just simply jogging along and just got there in time when Nani, I think it was Nani who passed him the ball, and he just hit the ball into the back of the net. So
he started that, didn't he? From do you remember from our 18-yard box?
Yeah. Right.
And he jogged, didn't he? He didn't really run, did he? Kind of like, I think we could have got someone to pick him up and carry him. He would have cheered him up a bit more. But no, you're right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Wonderful goal that was, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I just think Martial. I just think if you just find that the form from not last season, the previous season. I just think last season he just did not start well for him. He was the red card against Tottenham. He was injured, and then Cavani, just his form. I mean, at some point, Cavani's whether he decides to stay on after this season, but it's like he'll go
after this. Yeah,
but I mean, I can't wait to see Cavani play at Old Trafford. I mean, I was there for the Fulham game, and I was just watching him. I'm just thinking his movement is just second to none. I'm just like, it's questioning the opposition defense. Like, I'm here on the left, I'm here in the centre, I'm on the right. You just don't know where he's going to be, and just some of the goals he scored last season. I just hope he carries on with that. I mean, but yeah, just that's something for the long term. Who is going to be the number 9? I know you say Greenwood's not a number 9, but I just think if he learns a lot from Cavani, he could be. But it's good point. With being a number 9 now, you've got to develop that killer instinct. I interviewed Andy Cole actually a few years ago at Le Mans, and I was asking him about number 9. I was asking him about positional play, because at the time when Coley was with us, there wasn't a better striker in the Premier League with his back to goal who could take the ball with his back to goal, swivel, score. His movement was exceptional. He could score a variety of different goals. And he always said to me, he said, you can coach 90, maybe 92, 93% of the outside of the 18-yard box in terms of coaching it into your game. But you can't coach the other 7 or 6%. I can't remember what his percentage was. You can't coach that. You can't tell somebody where to be. And it's all about natural eye ability, he was telling me, and anticipation, and that will to make yourself look a complete knobhead if you're running into space and the ball doesn't come to you. But you've got to give it a go. And I always remember Cavani, and I can't remember which game it was playing. Anyway, he's playing a game, and I can't quite remember which one. It was the latter game of the season. The ball looks like it was going to be whipped in, and I think it was Greenwood, and he faked to whip it in and went back on his left. But as he faked to whip it in, Cavani was on the move and almost went to dive because he was anticipating exactly where the ball was going to be with his trajectory to his head. And that is a striker's instinct. You can't. This is what Coley was telling me. Look, I can only go on what he's telling me, but it makes a lot of sense to me as I talk about it. It makes sense, and
That's my worry with Greenwood, and I don't think he'll stick his head in there when the boots get flying or Chiellini decides to come and land one on him or something.
Sorry, Stuart, do you think that Mason Greenwood? It reminds me. To be fair, I'll hold my hands up. I didn't watch too much of a young Robin van Persie, but it reminds me a bit of a young Robin van Persie in a way. It may take that extra 2 or 3 years just to develop a little bit more and then become that sort of clinical striker that you're on about, the one that fox in the box. Because if you look at a very, very young Robin van Persie, he wasn't scoring by the bucket loads at Arsenal, especially when he was at Arsenal. It sort of took him 2, maybe 3 seasons of being that sort of in that number 9 sort of role, number 10 role, just to learn the position a lot more. And then from there he got very, very clinical, I seem to remember, but he certainly wasn't in his early Arsenal days that clinical. Do you think there's hope for Greenwood in that respect? Because they're very similar players. Or maybe I'm maybe reading it too wrong, pal.
But Benny, he needs to get clattered in training by Maguire and Lindelof at the same time. That's what he needs. He needs to get clattered. Robin van Persie was quite brave as a striker, and he would get stuck in and he would get clattered. And Greenwood, to really develop that fear or remove that fear element of getting clattered, you need to get clattered in training. You need to put yourself in an environment where you're up against the bigger man all the time. You look around, right? Who's the bigger man? Right. I'm going to go mark you. I'm going to try and disrupt your game. I'm going to try and win the ball off you. I'm going to try and out jump you. I'm going to try and out muscle you. You need to put yourself against the bigger man. Now, look, I've said this before about, and Cal actually disagreed with me. Cal was saying, look, the likes of Shiratiri, they're only 17. They shouldn't be in the gym, but you've got to start giving yourself a chance of development earlier rather than later. We've just seen in the Olympics, a 13-year-old girl has won a bronze medal, and she started training at 6. And the commentators were saying that 5 or 6 years ago, which is, I know we're talking about skateboarding here, and I know absolutely F all about skateboarding. So, but the commentator, it resonated with me because the commentator was saying 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, they were starting to train at 12, 13 and 14. Now they're starting at 5 and 6. And at the Olympic Games at fucking 13 years old. This is where sport's going. This is what's happening. And this is where players have got to take a look at themselves and really look at it. Really look at it and say, right, what do I want? How do I want to, stamp my mark on this team sooner rather than later? Otherwise, they're going to drift. And they're going to drift like the likes of Brandon Williams. They're going to drift the likes of Diego Dallo. They're going to drift like players of that nature. And you've got to do everything you can to stop it. So if I was Greenwood and it was me, that's what I'd be doing at training. I'd be putting myself in a position where I'm getting clattered day in, day out, just to see if I can handle it. And then I'd start working on other areas of the game if I wanted to be a number 9.
Absolutely. I would have come to Charlie because Charlie did say in the private chat that...
Yeah, sorry, dude.
No, I was just going to make a point on Martial. It's a tough one, Martial. I think a lot of people make comparisons with Rashford, and I will make a comparison with Rashford. I'm not doing it because I don't like Rashford, because I like Martial. I'm not doing it in that respect. But a lot of people say that Rashford scores more goals and Martial is lazy, inconsistent, etc. If you actually look at the minutes per goal between the two of them, overall, since they both started playing for United, Rashford's is better in all competitions. But in the Premier League, the Premier League and the Europa League, obviously we hope we're not in the Europa League for much longer, years to come. But in the Premier League, Martial's is better. Whereas in the Champions League, Rashford actually averages a goal every 135 minutes, which is incredible. That's like just, a goal every 1.5 games in the Champions League, which is unbelievable record really for an inside forward. But, Martial's minutes per goal ratio is better in the league. And I think that's important. I know Martial's played played probably more games as a number 9. But I think Rashford does play almost as a number 9 at times as an inside forward. You know, he is in the box a lot. So I think people get a little bit mistaken with statistics a little bit. If you actually read into it, there isn't that much difference between their goal contributions. So then you have to look at what they offer for the team. And I think when Martial and Rashford don't score or assist, I think Martial offers more in terms of doing the right things at the right times with his decision making. I think neither are particularly good with work rate defensively, and I think that's something that Ollie needs to improve on. But I don't think it's something that Ollie actually wants from them. I think that he wants them to stay high for the counter attack. Obviously, in the pivot system that we've been playing, I think that's what he wants for them to counter. But there isn't too much difference between Martial and Rashford. I know Rashford's 2 years younger. I mean, we have to take that into account. Obviously, he's still in his development stage. But there isn't too much between them in terms of goals and assists. And there's this sort of narrative. I don't think there's too much between them in ability. I'm not saying I don't think there is. But some people sort of think that Rashford is world class and Martial is average, or he doesn't turn up and all this. But there's actually not that much between them. So I think it's actually a closer battle than a lot of so-called Man United fans think. I think it's actually closer than a lot. I think some people sort of say, oh, definitely Rashford, definitely Martial. I don't think there is a definite answer. I think they both bring different aspects against different opponents. And I think that's the way we should take it, really. And, you know, when Martial was playing as a number 9, I think we saw after lockdown, he started to score more sort of, as what Stuart said, proper number 9 goals. We saw at home to Sheffield United, away at Chelsea.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
And I think he can develop that side of his game. I really think he can. I think his hold-up play has improved. I think he looks at a better physique now, and I fully trust him. I think he's got incredible talent, and I think that I honestly hope, I really do hope that he turns up next season. But yeah, I just wanted to make the point on Martial and Rashford because I think there is a few misunderstandings. I think a lot of people think that Rashford is this sort of world-class player. Martial, maybe because he's not English, Martial, or he's inconsistent, but there isn't too much between them in terms of their statistics. So, you know, I think we should just be careful when, you know, I think some people don't quite do the research, you know, before they make comments.
They look at the eye test, though, don't they, Charlie? You know, we talk about Martial looking languid. You know, Andrew said, and I think you're right. I think Martial is slightly better with his back to goal, but he's got a long way to go. The thing about playing with your back to goal is he doesn't really do the basics. That really annoys me because if the ball's coming into you, you know, he doesn't stand squat. You've got to stand squat when you got your back to goal so you can shield the ball because you know what's going to happen. You got a big towering centre forward who's just going to come and jump over you. If you stand squat, he's got to then lean over you, and chances are you'll get a foul. You know, and he doesn't do that. And if he could just get himself to stand squat, get his legs a bit tighter in, get his body just slightly out, arch his back, stick his arse in the guy's whatever, and what it does, it makes you so wide. It makes it really difficult for a player to get round you and get the ball. And he's quite quick with his thinking, is Martial. If he can get the ball off, spinning and around. This is where Cavani's really good, spinning around. That's where you get your 2 or your 3 yards that you need, you know, in the 6 yard or the 18-yard box. So I'd love to see Martial develop that side of his game and also his heading ability. He's miles better with his back to goal than Rashford. Yeah, I don't think Rashford can play with his back to goal. I think you're right there, 100%. But in terms of ability, it's a paper thin. It's a width of paper, if that's, you know, they're very, very even. And they're very, very exciting when they're on the day as well, like really exciting. I think Rashford's probably got a better strike on him. Well, I think we know he's got a better strike than Martial, but Martial's a bit more clinical when he's in front of goal. So I agree with you, Charlie. Actually, I think you're right, mate.
Well, before I want to wrap this up, I want to roll 3 questions into one because I didn't expect this argument to go on for so long, and it's only so. I'm going to try. I want to come to Andrew first. Don't worry, Andrew. You look a bit scared, mate. I'm going to come to you first, Andrew. don't worry, it's nothing too scary, mate. All I want to know is, for you, is this the strongest United team since our last title-winning team of 2013? Will we find some silverware this season with the squad the way it currently is, with our new additions? And do we have the right strength in depth this season, and we won't sort of run out of steam like we have done the previous couple of seasons? How do you feel about this United side as it is right now? Are we going to win some silverware? Are we going to challenge for the league title? Go on, Andrew. Give me some positivity to end on, mate.
Yeah, I say squad. Well, it seems like it's more and more Ollie's now, and I think it's got enough depth in it, and it's more than capable of, I say, winning a trophy or two. Like I say, when I was sitting at Old Trafford for the Brentford game, just looking at the players, and I'm thinking the players that we've got to come back, and I was thinking this could be a special season for us, but I was trying not to get too overexcited. I was just thinking we've got the capability to do it. I want us to challenge for the title. I mean, like I said, we finished second last season, and then a few years ago under Mourinho, we didn't quite challenge for those titles. I mean, like last season we was like top for 2 weeks, and then it just all fell away a bit. And I'm like, but from the signings we've made, and I think the one key thing is for this season is we don't pick up many injuries. Well, if we pick up many injuries, then it could just derail everything, but hopefully not. And the squad stays together, and we can just rely on every player. So if one player's not in, another player can come in and just pick up the baton and say, yeah, I'm going to be on form, and I'm going to do a job for the team as well. But I'm excited ahead of the season. I'm hoping we will be picking up some silver at the end of it. I'd love to see that.
Absolutely. Nice to see Connor in the comments, Ugly Bear, Red Lords, Vincent. You're keeping the chat in the comments quite interesting this evening. I think we batter City even if they sign Grealish and Kane. Well, you know what Ollie's like? He likes to score old Pep Guardiola, doesn't he? So we'll put it beyond him. Brian said Trippier and a CDM will equal a perfect end to the transfer window. So we will see on that one. And I just wanted to get this one up from Ugly Bear. It's it's media negativity that doesn't give Martial the credit he deserves. Fans copy what they see. Yeah, absolutely, mate. Especially we all know what especially the British press and the British media are like. You know, it can be quite grinding at times. I think they always have their specific target, and once they've got that specific target locked, it's very hard for them to let go, you know. Hence why the chant was 50 million down the drain, but Tony Marshall scores again, because you remember that famous mirror. I think it was the mirror, or was it the sun?
Mirror. I think it was the mirror, wasn't it? Yeah.
What, 50 million? But, you know, we shall see, mate. I'm coming to you then, Stu.
I'll make it easy for you, Benny. I'll make it easy. We're winning the quad. There you go, mate.
What are we, mate?
We're winning the quad. I'll make it easy.
We've been drinking Carthic's Council Pop juice, have we, mate?
Well, I clearly have, because I haven't got a craft on the old go tonight. So clearly I'm drinking the Carthic's Council Pop. No, actually, you know, from a fan's perspective, I always buzz at the beginning of the season anyway, because I just love football. I like to think I'm a football purist. Manchester United is, you know, the pinnacle for me. But I love watching football. You know, I'll watch as many games as I can throughout the season. My missus hates it, but she understands that's what she married. You know, she goes off and does her own tearing at a weekend. I love me football. I'm sure your good lady understands that from your point of view. I do think we'll win silverware this year. I think, you know, with all the best will in the world, when you look at Man City for the past 5 or 6 seasons, to claw back, I think it was 12 points, wasn't it? We finished behind them last season. It's going to be a big ask. And I'm sorry, I'm going to use the phrase, if you know anything about football, you will know that is going to be a tough ask to claw that back. But I do think we can win the FA Cup this season. And I do think we'll go further in the Champions League, maybe quarterfinals. We might even go into the semi. But I think, being honest, although I'd love to win the league, and you know me, if you don't, you know, you start out and you go for everything. and you have to have, just from a personal point, I would always have failed if I hadn't have won the league, but we must come second at least, which is strange. I know it's going to be strange. We're going to get slaughtered for this. I can see it coming. But I think we'll win the FA Cup, actually, if I'm being honest with you. And that's just an honest assessment of where I think we can pick up silverware.
Yeah, absolutely, Stu. And just to come on to Jarvis's point, did we talk about Donny? No, we didn't actually talk about Donny. But I'm hoping that Carfit will let me do a show on Donny van der Beek, because I think it is one that will bring up quite a lot of discussion, quite a lot of talking points. So hopefully, maybe next week or the week after, depending on what Carfit's got planned, hopefully I can do a show on Donny van der Beek, because I think it will be a good show to do.
Oh, yeah.
In and around Donny van der Beek. So, yeah, just keep an eye on that one, because it's one that I will ask Karthik if we could do a show on. So, yeah. What's Red Lords is saying here? Champions League could present itself with the best chance of big silverware, should be aiming for the semi-finals minimum, says Red Lords. Absolutely. And Charlie, sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself there. Charlie, my friend, are we going to win Champions League? Or, as Stu, my good friend Stu saying, FA Cup, does Ollie need to win some silverware this season? And have we got the strength in depth to do it? Because I think the previous couple of seasons, as we got towards the end of the season, we've huffed and we've puffed, and we seem to have run out of steam. But what's your assessment, mate? How are we going to do this season? Are we going to win the lot like Stu quite famously said at the start then, and he's going to probably get clipped up for it? Or are we going to I even concept with just winning the League Cup, something, just a trophy to get under Ollie's belt? What we feeling, mate?
I think there's 3 or 4 criteria for me for Ollie and the team. I think number 1 is we have to win at least one trophy of some sort. I think number 2, we have to get to the quarterfinal of the Champions League. And number 3, we have to challenge for the title. And for me, challenging for the title, after everyone has their different, obviously challenging for a title can mean different things at different times. But with 8 games to go, so after 30 games, I want to be within 2, 3 or 4 points of the leaders. I want to still, when we get to sort of March, April time, I still want to be within a chance, and I think that's quite fair. I think if you look at what Ollie's spent now, he's bought Tellez, Maguire, Varane, Wan-Bissaka. He's bought 4 defenders. He's bought Van der Beek, Bruno, Sancho, Cavani. Is anybody else I've missed? I think there's Ahmad and a couple of others. But he has spent a lot of money, and I think we have to. I think we have to win. If we were to finish in the top 4 with no trophy, I think he would have to go next season. I just think with the squad that we've got now, I think it's unacceptable not to win something. Obviously, things change within a season. Obviously last season we didn't know Liverpool were going to have hardly any senior centre halves fit. Chelsea were going to have a terrible season under Lampard. And Man City started very slowly, of course. So things could change. Obviously next season, we could be sitting in sort of November time saying we're the big favourites, that Man City have got a crisis, COVID crisis, that could drop in at any point with the COVID, of course, anything could happen. So I think the realistic expectation, I think he has to challenge for the title. I'm not saying he has to win it. I think he has to challenge for it. I think we have to win at least one of the trophy. I think we can. I think we really can. I think our best 11 on a day can compete with everybody. Our squad, I worry a little bit for the squad as a whole, particularly in the defensive midfield areas, of course. But yeah, why not? Let's impose ourselves. The Champions League, Juventus, Barcelona, Real Madrid, all in a bit of a state. Bayern Munich, of course, strong. But other than Bayern Munich, who else would scare you from abroad? Who else would actually scare you? I know Atletico Madrid are a bit of a tough ass, but who would scare you more than City, Chelsea?
I think PSG have amassed a good 11.
PSG would scare, but again, the PSG curse. They seem to struggle, don't they? When they get to the quarters, they seem to fall short.
Do you know, that's quite a good point, Charlie, because teams in the past have really galvanised themselves for that game. If you're a player, I talk about this a lot, really. you want to test yourself against the so-called very best. You want to go out there and you want to put a marker down. You want to beat them. And we didn't quite do that last season, as I think, we all know. We did City, obviously. We fell short against Liverpool. And really, the first match, Liverpool were there for the taking. I don't know what the hell was going on with Arsenal last year. I mean, if anyone could tell me, I haven't got a clue what was going on with Arsenal. We know what happened in the first match against Spurs, and obviously when we played them at their place, we were by far the better side, and normal service was resumed. Chelsea have been interesting proposition next year, but I don't know. It looks like they're going all out for Lukaku. I mean, big time going all out for Lukaku. I don't know whether Grealish will add that much to City, if I'm being totally honest. It depends who Grealish goes in for. Is he going for Mahrez? Does he go in for Sterling? Does he go in for? He won't go in for Gundogan. He probably won't go in for Fernandinho, and he definitely won't replace De Bruyne. So I'm not really sure whether Grealish will make that much of a difference to City. We don't know how Liverpool are going to come back this season. You're absolutely right, Charlie. But they've lost Wijnaldum. It's a big. That'll be a big blow for them. That will. Yeah, a big blow. And I can't see Arsenal making any dents and any inroads into it. So it'll be very interesting this season, actually. But I'll start. I think, Charlie, you made a point a couple of shows ago. Actually, we were on that our start is more critical this year than it's ever been, and I think you're right. I think we are going to have to move and take probably. Well, I think we're going to need 12 points actually out the first 4. And I know Leeds is going to be very, very tricky because of the way that they press. But I think we need to win our first 4 because I think it could well be 90 plus points again. Well, it will be. Yeah. It could even be 100. It really could. It really could. When you score, what was City and Liverpool's totals? Was it 199?
I think it was 99 and 98, wasn't it?
Or something along those lines. It was ridiculous. Yeah. It was a ridiculous season. And it could well be that again this season. It could well take that accumulation of points this season to do it. That's if we can close that 12-point gap between us and City. So yeah, I'm really excited actually. I'm really quite.
The thing is, Stu, I think one thing I think you mentioned about the Liverpool game at Anfield. I think one thing we lack that we need to improve on is the management of a game when to smell blood. Because I think I think you saw. I don't know whether you remember when Man City went to Anfield last season and won 4-1, and Phil Foden was just incredible. They smelt blood and they took them, and we could have done that to Liverpool. We could have taken them. And I think we had the players to on the pitch, but we just didn't. I just don't think we quite believed. And I think that's what we've got to believe. I think we've got to believe in our ability. I think we've got enough quality out there. But I think bringing Varane in and bringing Sancho in, will it add that little bit more? I think the coaching and the in-game management of Ollie's got to improve as well. But it's going to take a big task to win the title. But we have to manage games better and smell blood when the opposition's there for the taking, because they have been there for the taking in certain games. Yeah,
I definitely think we'll be a spicier chili this season for sure. I think we'll burn a lot of throats in terms of. I think we will be more clinical this season. I really do. But when you consider where we are in pre-season, our players have only just really started to return. Sancho, apparently, for whatever reason, I'm a bit disappointed in him, really, because if I was him, I would have turned up 2 weeks ago. I'd have had a week off. Seriously, I'd have had a week off and turned up a few weeks ago and really, new club, new surroundings, but he's not coming. He's turning up Friday, isn't he?
Friday. Yeah, that's the reports.
That's what I heard. Wouldn't you? If you were signing for United, wouldn't you have gone 2 weeks ago? Had a week off. You didn't really
have a week off.
Yeah, I'd have a week off and then go. He can do all his resting, So I'm a bit disappointed he's only just coming back. But anyway, that's a side issue, isn't it? That's a side issue. So.
Anyway, I better wrap the show up because it has been going over an hour and a half. But what I will ask before a quick yes or no to my panel is before we end the show, have United got the best starting? Well, not even the best, the strongest team in the league? Yes or no? And that's what I'm gonna, because that's what it's all about. Have we got the best team in the league this season? Yes or no? I want to start with Stu.
He's undecided.
Yes.
Good lad, Stu. Good lad. Positivity. I love it. Andrew.
I'm gonna say yes, and also victories in the early games in the season will show United mean business once again, especially after the transfer window we've having so far. So yes.
Thank you, Andrew. Lovely positivity. Charlie, how are you going to
go on, Chazza?
Yeah.
Positivity.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to say no. I think Manchester City, unfortunately, Manchester City, if you go through the squad player for player, I think if they get Grealish and Kane, I don't think over a season, I think in terms of the, if anybody gets injured, they just slip another player in who's equally as good. So I think we're sort of third, in my opinion, second to maybe breathing on second with the transfer window we've had, but I think we're about third. But the best team doesn't. The best individuals don't always win a title.
Absolutely,
You've got to, you look at Leicester, for example, Huth and Morgan as two centre halves. Who would have had them down as title winners? Look what they did. So, lots of positivity still. It's maybe slight underdogs. We consider slight underdogs compared to City. So let's have it.
Yes, we have got the best squad in the league because I positive Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is gonna it's gonna surprise a few. I think is the word I'm looking for. Don't write the guy off yet. Don't write United off yet. Especially if we could bring a couple more in as well before the transfer window ends. I think this season we'll definitely see some sort of silverware. So. On that, I'm going to end because it has been dragging over an hour and a half, and I'll probably get killed for it. But I love just listening to people, love the debate. My thanks to Stu, my thanks to Andrew, my thanks
Pleasure.
My thanks to everybody that's tuning in and everybody that got involved in the comments. I love you guys, and we'll see you in the next one.
See you guys.